Sir, it's been forever.
Oh man, it's been since like the cooked shoot, right?
Yeah, with Jonathan, yeah.
Dude, that's like like the calm before the storm, man. That was right before the shit hit the fan.
Yeah, I think that was like at the end of February, beginning of March. Like,
Yeah, that was it. The ironic thing was the day after that shoot, I got violently sick, and I don't know if it was CV. I don't know if it was just it felt like a pretty bad kind of a flu kind of a thing. But I was down for a couple of days after that, and so I was 100% convinced I passed COVID onto the entire crew.
oh, yeah, I didn't get sick at all. I haven't gotten sick this whole year, unless it was a hangover. But
knock on wood.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, the longer it goes on, the higher of a chance.
Yeah.
Everybody has it getting it, which sucks so much ass. So
just got to kind of roll with the punches, kind of take it day by day, right?
Yeah. And then the shoot we did before that, I think it was Deuces, if I'm not mistaken, right? Unless we worked on.
Yeah, that's cool.
Dude.
That's cool. Yeah, I miss it. I miss my film family.
I do too. Have you shot anything since or worked on sets since then?
I've done weddings. I've done, just little COVID weddings, and then mostly just still photography. I haven't been working much this year besides on kind of passion projects and then helping anybody out that might need. But yeah, as far as working with John or anybody like that, dude, it's been super quiet, but I can feel it. I can feel the wheels starting to turn a little bit more. But yeah, so I took that advantage to kind of go nuts and go out and get some pictures of animals, right? And socially distance within 25 yards of a bull buffalo, a big bison sitting out there in the field. So yeah, it's been good. It's been a good year. We've been able to get through it.
Yeah, I've seen some of your still photography nature stuff on Facebook, and it's interesting because like you don't post often on social media, but when you do, you like just drop some pictures, and I'm like, where did he go for that? Like, what's going on?
He just kind of, he appears somewhere here, appears over there. No, it's good. And, social media has been such a good thing. It's that you feel it, man, working, that's our networking. And every day goes by as we, get closer to a certain big decision this country has. It's kind of a toxic place to be, but that's our business, right? That's how you get exposure. That's how we network. That's how we keep in contact with people like you. I mean, if I didn't have my social media, I wouldn't be on this podcast, so it's kind of hard, it's kind of that double-edged sword. It's the ultimate definition of that, I guess, but
it is. So what, like, how do you know where to look to get these nature? Well, hold on. Before we go there, let's have you introduce yourself.
That's no problem. Yeah. My name's Layne Orr. A longtime film friend of Chaz's here. I love being on set with this guy. I spend most of my time in wildlife photography, portrait photography, family photos, stuff like that. Anything anybody needs, I can point a camera at it. I graduated from the film program at Slick, alongside John and Deuce and all those awesome cats back in 2016. So it's been a good 4 years with that degree on my wall, and I use it when I need it. And it's less of a job, but more than a hobby. So it's kind of somewhere between freelancing and gypsy work. But no, yeah, it's a good time, and I'm stoked to be here.
Let's talk about just real quick with Slick, because I've kind of talked to Deuce and to Jonathan about it, but their film program is a lot different. It's similar, but it's a lot different in the sense that, from my understanding, it's more hands-on right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Whereas the university is definitely more theory-based before you get hands-on.
You're at U of U, right? You're at U of U. Okay, cool. Yeah. I know that Utah State was kind of trying to merge there with Slick for a little bit and kind of building it more on experience based. But you're right. There was this the film theory was there at Slick. There was those classes you could take, the film history, the film and cultures, but they felt completely separate from the production courses. I had the opportunity of being taught by the great Channing Lowe and the late great Mark Davis, and I was in Mark Davis's cinematography class when he passed, and it left a lasting impact, and those two gentlemen and Tyler and everybody else at Slick just did an awesome job at making sure that while we were studying the theory, those kind of required electives, that required electives, contradictory, but they made they made such a good effort in making sure that we understood what went into these movies, and the minute we started appreciating these films, they made sure that we knew that, like, the backs that were broken to make those films. You know what I mean? It's really nice and fun to. I'm assuming me and you could sit down and talk movies for days, but they made sure that it was like, yeah, but blood, sweat, and tears went into those movies, and this is how they did it. So I was honored to be a part of it, and the people I met. There's this kind of stigma that goes around with film school that it's not really needed, and that networking and exposure is so much more important. But I think that meeting the people I did, I would never do it differently. I made enough friendships there that made it all worth it. Even if that degree is to just sit and collect dust on my wall for the rest of my life, it was all worth it, man.
Yeah, I am on the same page with you on that. Because like some people have asked, if they should go to college for it or whatever, and I think it's worth it just because you do meet a lot of cool people. There's lifelong friends that I still talk to now, after graduation. And I appreciate the analytical approach and all the theory stuff before going hands on. But do you need college? Probably not, because you'll learn that theory stuff as you're in the field. Like, it's just like implied knowledge, essentially.
Trial by fire kind of thing.
Yeah. And so, but I appreciate knowing them before going in, and that way you can kind of approach stuff differently. But it's not like nobody's elevated over somebody else,
Yeah. And to me, it was about picking the brains. Mark Davis, this guy teaching me camera gear this guy was on set of Spider-Man. He was under Raimi. So it was less of what can he teach me from a book and more of what can he teach me from his experience, man. And I just used that opportunity to, I know I got to do my homework, but what was this like? And, what was, so it was, I would never take it back for a million years. Yeah. It's just, it's the way it was. And the economy of the film world here is the way it is. And it doesn't necessarily, hold any weight that you have that degree, but it holds weight to me. And that's all that matters. Right.
Oh, totally. You can say I went to school for it. I finished school and got a degree.
Proud of that. Yeah,
definitely. But, all right. So going from that, what I was going to ask you before, still photography with your nature stuff. How do you know where to go and how, where to shoot, or do you kind of is it by kind of a chance kind of a scenario?
So a little bit of a Triforce, if I may use a Zelda analogy, but no, it's a little bit of all three. Basically it starts off with which animal do I want to go out and get, or if it's just landscapes, what style of landscape do I want to go get? My experience growing up was that my family was involved early on in my life. My family was involved in Mountain Man Rendezvous. Have you ever heard of Mountain Man Rendezvous?
I've actually been to two. Yeah.
Rock on. Cool. You know exactly what I'm talking about then, dude. Yeah. And so that was early on. My dad's a wildlife artist. He oils and leather work and sculpture. I think the sculpture right over there is my dad's. And so early on I had this appreciation for wildlife and landscapes and nature. And so it was just a matter of going to these places, knowing which wildlife eventually show up in these places. We live in such a fantastic state for this, being able to, 2 hours east is dense forests and Mirror Lake, and 2 hours is salt flats, and not even 2 hours is salt flats and desert. And then you got Arches 4 hours south and Yellowstone 4 hours north. It's like any direction you go, there's this kind of, we're kind of in this wagon wheel of nature and wildlife ability to capture these things. And so, yeah, it just kind of comes with a natural experience over time of, yeah, I know there's mountain goats there. Yeah, I know there's moose here. Yeah, I know there's, buffalo out at, everybody knows about Antelope Island, right? Like, they're right there. That's the best spot to just go out and get it real quick. And so, yeah, it just kind of comes with time, and or reach out to some of your buddies, hiking friends. Where have you seen a moose, or where have you seen a bear? Where have you? So yeah, it just kind of comes with time and just memories of childhood on where we used to go. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool.
So what got you into photography then?
So you got the classes there at Slick. I started off wanting full blown like cinematography. You want to go be a filmmaker,
right?
The photography classes for me were just as fun. Those required, like, I think there was 2 of them that were required for the degree, and I was like, holy cow, this is a really cool cool thing. And then that ended up being like, you've heard it, what's your plan B, right? So like, so I'm sitting here and I'm going, I go off the Quentin Tarantino approach of like no plan B. You can't, like, you'll fall back on that, right? I went against my own principles of not having a plan B and made photography my plan B on like but it's not necessarily my plan B. It's when filmmaking is slow. It's something I can go out and still practice my craft in, right? If the chef's restaurant is super slow, he's going to go home and he's going to cook at home, and he's going to try different things on his own. You know what I mean? And so it's just kind of been my own exodus and my own way to get out and go. And so, yeah, it was just born. It was just born after my love of my older love of nature and capturing wildlife. And I thought this is a good way to go.
Well, and I think photography and cinematography have a lot of same thresholds, like similar concepts and all that. And so I find it interesting when a cinematographer is not a photographer on the side, if they don't know anything about photography. I think it's not weird, but it's just kind of bizarre because there's so much opportunity there to kind of apply both.
For sure. And what I'm finding in the wildlife, because I haven't been in the wildlife professional scene very long. I don't have any of my work in major publications or anything like that. Hopefully, cross your fingers. But what I'm finding is that I'm one of the only folks out there who's pulled from some of my favorite cinematographers and is using that in my imagery. There's a lot of photographers out there that are shooting stuff for magazines, and it's like I'm shooting stuff and then I'm coloring it and editing it cinematically. So it's got this kind of hybrid Liger situation, where I've mixed the world of cinematography and my love of cinematic look. Your Emmanuel Lubezki's, your Timo Salmonen's, all those cool nature cinematographers that really know how to capture a landscape or a portrait. And I think that can be applied and kind of pushed in, and I'm having a fun time doing that for sure.
What's like the most insane nature shot that you've got or that you've like come across? Just trying to capture a photo.
It might have just happened. So every year I go up to Yellowstone the last week of September, which is known as the Elk Rut. It's a very popular time to go up to Yellowstone. And I had heard about this viral video going around of this grizzly bear coming down and taking a bull elk in the Yellowstone River. That's just I think it's northwest of this giant valley called Hayden Valley, which is like, dude, if you ever come to Yellowstone with me, I'm taking you to Hayden Valley. If that's where you get your shots, it's this kind of wildlife war zone. It's kind of this melting pot of activity for wildlife. And I had seen this viral video going around. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, that's awesome. But, I missed it by 3 days, it's more of a bummer than it is cool for me to see that. Cause it's like, I just missed it. So I get up there and we start heading to Hayden Valley, and it doesn't even cross my mind that elk is pulled into the trees. It's that grizzly bear is no longer there. It's 3 days later, I think it was 2 or 3 days later. And so we pull up and I start seeing like there's some cars and like there's some activity, and I'm like, oh man. So that's kind of your spot. That's kind of how you know there's something out there, is when 300 cars are parked in Yellowstone. I'm going, that it can't be the same grizzly, right? And this is grizzly 791. They have digit names as far as, you know, tracking purposes and wildlife. The rangers are able to kind of track these, and the ecologists and stuff like that. So we're driving and I look over and there's 791, like just chomping on this elk that he just got, you know, and it's like, man, it's right there. This viral video that was, you know, that came across my cell phone 3 days ago. I'm not even thinking I'm going to get anything of it. And I was able to just jump out, grab the lens, grab everything I needed. And I grabbed my walkie because my family wasn't even able to park. There were so many cars, but I was able to jump down this riverbank. It kind of, the road was like here. It just dropped straight off to a river. I'd say it's about a 15-foot drop. Was it trying to get your camera and down that kind of a slope is intense. So I finally get down water level. My feet are in water, and I'm just sitting straight across. It's probably 20 yards. And this grizzly is right here. I shouldn't say that I saw him right away because I overheard somebody saying that this grizzly's here. And I see the elk that he pulled, and I recognize the elk, and I'm going, where's he at? Like, you know, I assume he's here. There's this giant boulder in the water, and there's this elk. So I have this feeling, and I know I'm going to get something good today. And I turn, and there's another photographer about probably 10 yards down the riverbank from me. I'm going, hey, like, has he been down here? And the guy points. Just as he points, dude, that boulder gets up and just shakes. Right. I mean, this is straight across the river from me. So he's shaking that water off. I'm thinking that was a boulder, man. It was right. If it was a snake, it would have bit me. And he's right there, and he comes up and just kind of beds right on top of that elk. And I'm just, this is my shot, man. These are my shots, and I'm loving it. I got that. So yeah, you can go to my, when we give the contact information there at the end, I'll those shots are posted on my social media, and that was really cool. Another quick one was the bison rut last year. The bison rut is about 1 month earlier, and I got right in the middle of a bison herd that this big boy was kind of trying to rile up his ladies, and I was a little bit too close, and it's kind of a, I don't ride roller coasters, and when you hear about people riding roller coasters for that thrill, I get it. I think that's what they're talking about, and being out there with these beasts, it kind of connects you to an ancient earth that you don't necessarily get in the city. But,
yeah. Dude, that's like adrenaline 101.
Dude, it's just, yeah, you get into this is why everybody asks me, like, why do you like Yellowstone so much? Yellowstone is one of the only places that you can buy a ticket to get into that you are no longer at the top of the food chain. Like, yeah, you have your vehicle separating you, but if I take my camera and I walk 20 yards off the road, it's fair game. Like I'm going to be a headline, or I'm going to get out of there with my life. And it's kind of a, I don't know if you'd call it a sacred experience, because it's like you bought a ticket to get into this kind of attraction, but it's different than that. It's kind of it breeds an appreciation for Mother Earth, that like, whoa, I'm not that big of a, I come into the city and humans are the biggest thing, but yeah, you ain't in control when you're out there in the woods, man. So it's kind of fun.
Dude, the closest encounter I've had was probably with a moose. Wade.
Oh, dude, I don't have moose stories. Hit me with a moose story.
My moose story is intense because we weren't dumb to kind of go near it, but It was just from Smith and Morehouse campground up by Oakley and Camas.
Yeah. Not too far from my cabin.
Yeah. It was up there, and it was just in the water, just chilling with its baby. And we're just driving, and they're like, yeah, if we stopped, you would not go near that at all, because whatever. But apparently, my older brother, he had an experience where that was actually chasing him, at one
Oh,
point
really?
when he was younger. Yeah, he had his own experience. I'm just like, dude, that's scary. Those moose are huge.
Yeah, and the mama moose is, yeah, you get a cow moose or the calf. It's like you got to treat it with just as much respect as a grizzly bear with a cub, because they get so defensive. I'd take a bull moose, yeah, head on before I get a cow moose. They'll just they get this kind of awkward dog thing that they'll do, and they'll just you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they just kind of get this "I want you gone," and it's kind of spooky. But yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, there's some great moose activity to our eastern border here, and yeah, I got to get up there and get more photos of moose. That's kind of my winter plans, is to try to get up there and get some snowy moose shots.
Well, at least he didn't have like a one-on-one counter with like a cougar, like the guy down in Provo
Dude,
Canyon.
that video. So I'm up Butterfield Canyon yesterday, doing a Halloween themed portrait shoot. And last year, two mountain cougars came down from Butterfield Canyon in Harriman and walked right down 126 South. And so I took a sidearm with me up this time, because, that video freaked me out enough to be like, and that was really, I watched a video I watched not a video, but it was a response from an actual, like, I don't know what they call people who study big cats. I'm sure there's a official term for it.
Carol Baskins. No, I'm just kidding.
Tiger Kingologists. Holy crap. Remember when that was the weirdest part of 2020? But no, yeah. So I'm up there, and like, I kept thinking about it. Like, I was constantly checking my six. I'm just looking around like, man, all it takes is one thing. But yeah, I heard that from this expert, that was actually really unheard, like unseen behavior, like that it's really weird for one to leave her young like that and just walk away from you. And they're so self-conscious about the safety of their young, that for it to just leave like that, like it was kind of a weird video, man. Yeah, his first mistake was walking towards those babies. I think that if he would have just kind of backed off, then there would have been maybe a different outcome. But you just don't know. You don't, when you're in those situations. The person who was studying big cats, they said he did everything right other than walking towards them, and it sucks because it's every animal's different. When you're up in Yellowstone, they tell you, like, make a lot of noise when you're in grizzly territory, because like they'll move off. But then there's stories where people were making a lot of noise and it just brought them in. They thought that they were in distress or something. They might be a meal. So it's just like, you just have to kind of hope that you got good karma that day.
Yeah. Well, the thing I found most interesting about that cougar video, and for those who like have not heard about it somehow, is this guy was on a hike and came across cubs with a cougar mountain lion, and it pretty much tracked him down all the way down.
It was only about 45 minutes south of where we are right now as I sit here on this video. It was just right down Provo Canyon, I think, right? Yeah.
5 minutes just kind of cowering this guy down the hill and just following him, like,
longest 5 minutes of that guy's life, man.
Oh, dude. But there's a journalist I follow on Twitter, and he studies like a lot of elephants and just wildlife stuff.
I love that stuff.
And he was talking about how he was smart to not go down and grab a rock, number one, because like that could have pounced on him like right away. He was also mentioning how cougars don't like to be seen at all, and so if he wanted to kill this guy or she would have not shown herself at all and would have leaped from the bushes.
Yep.
In an instant.
Yep.
And so it was interesting. Yeah. I don't know what I would do in that situation, dude. I'd probably shit myself, honestly. Like,
absolutely, dude. Yeah, I'd soil myself like Sir Robin and Monty Python, dude. It would be over. And yeah, it's just such a weird video. I think that's why it was so captivating and went viral, that you're never going to get a video like that. That's kind of a once in a life. I'm like, as sick as this is, I'm kind of jealous he got the video, because it's like, that's going to be studied. That's going to be actually studied on cat behavior. Send that straight to Carol Baskins. She'll know what to do.
So hey, with wildlife though, do you have a favorite animal?
I do. Yeah. The my kind of spirit animal, as it were, is the bison, is the plains bison. I get out there with them, and I feel like I've never felt in danger by them, even if they are riled up around me. I get this kind of this respected distance, but I feel like I can just walk up to them. I love them. I love them with all my heart. They're kind of like I got this kind of bond with them, and I love photographing them. They just make such good. I think it's because they stand still. They can't move very fast, so that's probably just me being like, yeah, they're so photogenic because they just, even if they want to move fast, it's like I can still get a good shot at them. But yeah, no, that if I had to just shoot one animal for the rest of my life, it would be bison.
That's interesting, man. Yeah, antelope island's my only encounter with bison. But
Cool.
we were dumb. We were in high school and we were trying to get close, and thinking back on it, I'm like, dear God, like how stupid can you be?
We've all done it, and we've all been that person in Yellowstone that kind of is a little too close, and it comes with I don't hold it against you. I don't hold it against anybody. It's an appreciation for how cool this animal is.
Totally.
Just as long as you're not putting others, there's crazy YouTube reels of bison attacks in Yellowstone, and it comes with a knowledge of knowing. That's why I try to talk to park rangers a lot. Just what's your experience with animals, and try to figure it out. But like, Antelope Island, there was one to just kill the guy like a month ago, right? Like somebody got trampled out there, and it was like a runner that goes out running there like once a week, and very experienced. All it takes is just one little misstep. You ever see Grizzly Man?
I have seen Grizzly Man, yeah.
Cool, yeah, dude. So that was another one that right off the bat was like, hey, maybe I could do wildlife photography here for a little bit too. That one, what a weird inspiration to pull from that. Hey, I want to go do that. What that guy was doing. No, yeah, that's another instance where this guy did this for years. He was fine. This guy was the bear whisperer. I was convinced this guy was the bear whisperer. I remember seeing news clippings of this guy, and my dad's showing me videos of this guy that would just walk out into these Kodiak bears, these biggest bears on earth. And it's like, this guy's intense. He's not, I didn't want to call him crazy, because it was like, he's obviously got the touch. Then dude, one bad day is all it takes. Spoiler alert. Sorry if you haven't seen Grizzly Man.
It's been almost like 20 years almost.
Yeah. You got to have seen Grizzly Man by now, but yeah, I don't want to. I hope that this podcast isn't used as like past tense if something horrible happens to me. It's like, look, he was talking. He wanted this.
It's like the moment your news is shared that you get killed. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Like, oh hey, well here's his episode, so check it out, you guys. Free coverage for
Please
me.
Please do. If anything happens to me, dude, please use that. Be like, this guy was on my podcast.
Oh no, man, I'd be sad. I'd be devastated if that happened. I don't think that'd be such an awful way to go out to, like.
Dude, I get out there. And in a big herd of buffalo or get across from that grizzly bear. I watched that video of that grizzly bear get across that river to get that elk in 8 seconds. It took me 15 seconds to 20 seconds to get down onto that ledge. He wanted to turn on me, dude. It would have been over. You know what I mean? I'm kind of a big dude, and I'd be the slow photographer. I'd be the one that looks meaty to these guys. So those other wildlife photographers are all thin from hiking so much, and I'm kind of a plains photographer.
I think so bears have always kind of like, I don't know, put me on edge just because of horror stories and like how unnatural they can be, or not natural, just like how like within the split of a second, like you could be gone,
Yeah.
And I think watching The Revenant with the grizzly bear scene in that, just showing how brutal that was, and there's no way, dude. Like,
that was too real, man. Like I'm watching, like I watch The Revenant still. I probably watch that twice a year, and watching that, I'm still like, that scene still makes me sick. That scene makes me more ill than like any horror film, any slasher. Like I could watch every Saw, and that that scene is the one that, like, it's just too real, man. It's like, that's my worst fear when I'm out there is that I'm just going to walk across. All you have to do is turn one tree, and there's one right there, and if it wants you, it's getting you. And so yeah, there's a thrill to it, but there's also a respect to it. There's kind of a half. I think that you can kind of meet it halfway, in that you can have immense respect for these animals at the same time you respect their distance and their space.
Yeah,
it's like humans. We're learning that this year. 6 feet.
Dear Lord, man. Have you? Okay, speaking of humans and 6 feet, this is kind of not related, but kind of related. Have you seen Borat 2 yet?
No, I just saw. I just saw it on Amazon last night, and I'm just like, okay, I've got to set some time aside for this, because so. I don't know if you know this about me, but like prank videography was how I got started. Like my earliest influence to filmmaking is Johnny Knoxville, is the Jackass crew.
Yes.
These live reactions and getting these. So I went and filmed with this stunt crew called the Blockheads, which they're still going. They're still doing great stuff. And I was able to kind of live out that side of my passion. And Borat taps into a whole new, it's not physical it's not, it's less physical comedy and more like natural, awkward reactions between individuals. And for some reason, dude, it's like my favorite thing. You can ask my friends. I'm that one kid that was like, if we were sitting in an In-N-Out burger or something, and they would say like, go do something awkward, I would be the first person in line to do it, just because I love awkward human reactions, man. I think it really shows like the person's true self, right? Is when something weird or funny or horrible happens. So so Cohen is doing a great job at just kind of pulling out the, satire of the world. He's, oh man. Yeah. I can't, have you watched it?
Yeah, I watched it. I'm going to watch it again. Huh?
Is it amazing?
I laughed, man. I laughed. You could tell he uses different disguises in it, because he's like
oh dude, he's so recognizable.
Exactly. And so, but like, it's just, there's so much cringe factor to it.
Oh, dude.
And there's so much kudos to his counterpart who plays his daughter, right?
Oh no.
She's just as committed to the pranks, dude. And like, I just I don't know. Like, I don't know if your family's into it at all, like if your wife's into it, because like there's like some stuff where I'm like, I don't know if I could watch that with
watch this with my family.
But today I'm gonna watch it with family, supposedly. So I'm gonna rewatch
let me know how it goes. But no, I'm in. Yeah, you don't have to sell me on it, dude. I'm very excited for that.
Well, and
movie film, right?
Yeah, when I was watching not a documentary, I was watching an interview with I think it's Conan O'Brien. He was interviewing Sasha, and he was talking about This Is America, which is like his Showtime show. Is that what it's called? This Is America,
something like that. Like, yeah,
where he'll just prank these politicians into coming onto the show. So he was talking about what's his name? Oh no, Dick. What's his name? George Bush's little.
Oh, Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So he got him on the show, and his character was like an Israeli army guy, right? And so the Conan O'Brien's asking like, how did you fool him? Because like he knows war stuff, like he's smart. And he was talking about how the uniform they borrowed was from this Israeli army guy, and he was getting makeup on like 2 hours before like the interview was supposed to start. And he's like, okay, tell me your backstory. And he used that guy's backstory, like all the details to fool Cheney. And he he's so committed to the role, dude. Like, I don't know. And he
takes guts, man. It takes guts.
It does take guts. And he's duped multiple people, like the same person with multiple characters. It's just.
Yeah, dude. It takes a special. So my appreciation of it is to go up there and grab the politicians and bring them down to our level. You know what I mean? And like, and make them interact in ways that we've been forced to experience in the human experience. Like, it's the ultimate kind of fairness, right? Like get him. Nobody's safe, man. Nobody's safe.
No, seriously, and like it's interesting too because there was stuff on Twitter earlier this year, like in March or April, where stuff like reports were like, oh, so and so dressed up as somebody at this RNC event, but no other details are known about it. Yeah. Turns out it's related to Borat. You're just like,
dude, it's just all coming to light.
It's all these dots just connecting, and then like they have like release footage they're teasing on Twitter. I'm just I love it, dude. To be put in that situation though is such commitment, and I just being people behind the camera, like how do they keep their cool? Like,
dude, that's what it is, man. When you're filming, like it's one thing like growing up with the Jackass guys, and then when I went out and worked with the Blockheads and Kyler Vick, who's doing amazing stunts. It's this, you have to kill your soul to be behind these cameras, because there would be shots where I'm convinced that Kyler or one of our other Blockheads, like they were severely injured. You cannot, your human reaction is to drop that camera and go in and be like, holy crap, get 911. No, not only do you need to capture the entire thing, you need to capture their suffering, and you need to capture the reactions of the other people. So dude, it's a soul killer, because you're like, immediately you're like, get 911 on the phone. Like, we did this crazy stunt with Kyler that I was convinced would put him in a wheelchair. We had this, crappy, junkyard car. He had a yoga ball. This thing, like, I figured they were going to come at him, and he was going to jump and then yoga ball into the windshield, right? And then try to flip on over. I was thinking the car is going to go 10 miles per hour tops. This car just cruises into I'll have to try to find the clip. Cruises into my shot. It's going 25, maybe 30 into him. And I'm like, oh crap. Like this is getting I'm like, oh, this is going way too fast. He jumps. Well, if you look at a car is shaped like this, and then the hood comes out and goes down, right? So the windshield is 3 feet away from his kneecaps when he jumps, right? Because the car's going to hit right here, and the yoga ball's here. It's not going to work that way. So this ungodly crack as that bumper, because he jumps and that bumper hits his shins first and then throws him into the windshield. I was like, we didn't think this through. This one was bad. And so he flops over and just drops, and I'm going, I just caught like the death of a human being on video. Like, this is insane. I turn to kind of get reactions. And as I turn back, Kyler Vick, dude, he's standing up cheering, like, yeah. I was convinced his legs would be noodles. And I'm like, what am I doing here, man? These guys are intense. These guys are, so yeah, shout out to those Blockheads, man. So it was cool to kind of live that. But yeah, like you bring up, how do those cameramen do it? That's where the real, like, spectacle of the thing is for me is how is this person hitting roll on that and keeping a straight face or keeping cool, or like, in bad situations, how are they not freaking out? That takes a soul dead person.
Yeah. Well, and just like so like being in film and stuff, there's so much planning and pre-production, right? And I just imagine with these live reactions, there's even more planning that goes behind it, and they have to like come up with like so many different scenarios. Yeah, because anything can happen,
Yeah. Did you watch Bad Grandpa? Like the Jackass Bad Grandpa?
Years ago. I don't remember much of it. I wasn't a huge fan of it.
It came out after Borat and Bruno, so they kind of mixed the two worlds of like stunt photography, stunt videography, and dangerous pranks to Borat style, to Sacha Baron Cohen style, and it worked really well. In fact, I just barely did like a whole Jackass marathon of like the TV show, all the films, and then Bad Grandpa. And so yeah, I'm in the mood for that. I'm gonna go hit up. I'll hit up Borat. That's fantastic. I'm 100% in.
Hit it up, man. It's fun. It's just as good as the first one, I would say. But it's different too, because the first one was like post-war Afghanistan war, essentially.
Yeah, I was like heavy, like 9/11 tones, Afghan war, like Iraq war stuff, right?
Yeah, and this one is it's still political, but in
Yeah.
a whole different way. You're just like, holy shit. Like,
Yeah. If there's any
how?
time for him to do it like post 9/11 and then coronavirus, like this is insane.
And I was thinking today, because the movie, you know, like I've been reflecting on the movie for like the past couple of days just because it's so outrageous. But
Uh,
I'm like, there in 15 years, like he has to retire Borat at some point because he becomes too
yeah.
recognizable, right? But like in 15 years, will he reattempt it?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. After the next major crisis, like, is he going to be able to go back into that a third time now that
and if he,
everybody knows his tricks? Like,
yeah, if he does that, dude, like, give the guy an Oscar or something. Like,
yeah, in fact, it might need a new category, like, because that's a whole new, an actor is putting himself in, emotional, on the emotional stage when they step in front of camera. He's putting himself in physical danger.
oh, for sure, dude. And there, I mean, this isn't spoiling anything necessarily, but like, there's a part that's like at a QAnon rally, and it's unbelievable how nobody questioned him at all.
Yeah, scary, man. Scary, dude. Yeah, that takes guts.
But I think he's a good actor though. Outside of being this realistic pranks, right? I mean, have you seen Spy on Netflix?
I don't. Is that the one with? Oh no, I'm thinking of Spot, like Jude Law and Melissa McCarthy or something. So no, I don't think so.
Oh well, no, it's a Netflix series, and he's the star.
Series.
And he's such a good actor just across the board. I mean,
yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, but going back to photography though.
Oh, it's all good. Sacha Baron Cohen deserves time, man.
It has me thinking. You have to let me know what you think of it.
I will do. I'll message you.
I really enjoyed it, and it seems like on Letterboxd everybody's just like, "Holy shit," and that's all it is.
Only 2 words describable.
So with nature photography though, so with going like wildlife, have you considered doing like night photography with like, what do you call it?
Like the long exposure, like light paint, like they call it like light painting too. I've done a little bit. I went up and got some of the Perseid meteor shower about, I want to say like 3 years ago. Just kind of got out of the valley up into just outside of Park City to try to get out of the light pollution and try to catch some of that. And then I love like the light painting style of like getting like campgrounds and long exposing campgrounds. And then like people will just take their flashlights and kind of paint these trees, and kind of a cool thing. My buddy Johnny, that I shoot with quite often, he's full blown into astral. Like his biggest influence is Neil deGrasse Tyson on his photography. And it's like, it doesn't even translate. And it's like, it works because you can tell he has an appreciation for the cosmos and night capture. So he's going to have to teach me a few things because he's got it down pretty good. But no, yeah, I've always wanted to kind of branch out into that. That's a fascinating world.
Yeah, I've captured. It was at Smith Morehouse again.
Cool.
I have one photo that has the Milky Way in it.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, dude. But I wanted to do it again last year and this year, but this year, due to everything going on, like it's just like, nah, not worth it. But astrophotography is fun, man. Especially if you learn how to stack and stitch photos together. And
yeah, man. Yeah, I got one up in Yellowstone that was really cool. I didn't even realize I had it until like 3 weeks later when I went to go edit it. I just thought it was just kind of a stars shot, and then I realized an actual bat had flown through my shot. And so there was this outline kind of this kind of almost like bat signal in the sky. You know what I mean? It was kind of cool.
There's an effect called, this isn't astrophotography related, but it's called, I think it's German. It's a German name.
Okay.
But what you do is you have like an 85 millimeter lens, and if you're shooting like portrait photography, you could shoot it in a way it looks like it's shot in a 35 millimeter.
Oh, okay.
Let me figure out what that's called.
Yeah, no problem. That's cool though. Yeah, I'm always trying to like implement older styles. I've got like some Koken filters from the early 80s. that I like to try to use on modern lenses. I do shoot film on an old Canon F1. That was my parents' wedding gift, and they passed it down to me, and I've been able to get some really cool shots with that. And that's what I used to get through film school. That they required us to have a film camera, and so I would just go around. I learned that camera and was able to use a lot of that kind of 35 film look. It was really cool.
The 35 millimeter has like such a cool aesthetic to it.
Well, and that's what's cool about that is that you're never going to get the clarity that we got on film. Like we can go to man is going to chase megapixels into the next millennium. We will never get the accuracy that silver crystals did on film. It's not based on pixels. It's based on surface area of these crystals so it wasn't based on. There's always this limitation. I'm looking through a window screen out right over the computer screen right now, and it's separated by all the screens. So that is basically what digital photography is. But remove that screen, and that's what you're really seeing. That's film. We're never going to beat that clarity again. People say that it's blurry or it doesn't have the same crispness and stuff. And pixels allow us to bring out sharpness better. And it's like, yeah, but dude, that's real image capture. That's just any photograph I take with my my current Nikons it's just a digital representation of that image.
Yeah.
That film is the actual image, and you'll never touch that purity, man.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, like even watching old school movies, like that were shot in a 35 millimeter, there's that cool grainy vibe to it, and just kind of like adds more to it. And I love Christopher Nolan for that reason when he shoots film and digital, just because you could tell there's a huge difference to it, and like it's shot with intent, like
Yep.
There's a reason to it, and a lot of people don't appreciate it enough.
No, yeah, they don't. Yeah, when you go into a Tarantino flick and everybody's there for the spectacle and the performance of the actors, and I'm in it for the complete nerdiness of the gear he used. The lenses he pulled out for Once Upon a Time, or the 72 millimeter he used in Hateful Eight, or I'm just I'm preaching to the choir when I'm saying I love the gear aspect of that. There's a geekiness there that will never go away in me.
Do you have a favorite lens you like to shoot then, like with photography, and like is it the same with film?
I use Nikon glass with Nikon bodies. I'm kind of a you could call me a Nikon fanboy, but I haven't ventured into the really, really good stuff as far as your $15,000 lenses, anything. Yeah, dude, you know what I mean? Like I'm shooting with I'm living within my current means right now, but I mean, I've seen some photography on some of those high-end glass, and Nikon just does a really good job at their glass. I sat and talked with a gentleman on my riverbanks, my photographer down the road from me, from that bear. And we just sat and talked about glass, and I asked him how long he'd been doing this, kind of white in the facial hair. And I said, how long have you been doing this? He's about 40 years. Like, dang, dude, like I had a hard time getting down this riverbank, and I said, so lenses, where do I end up with lenses? He says, you go out and you play with the fancy stuff, but you always come back to Nikon. Like, wildlife photographers, they'll go out and play with these fancy things. It's like Bentleys and Rolls Royces. You're going to go out, you want to go out and play with them, but you're always just going to come back to a Toyota Tacoma truck or something that, it's just Old Faithful, no Yellowstone pun intended, but, so I'll stick with Nikon for a long time, but I'm not afraid of trying some new stuff. I know there's some good stuff out there. So
yeah, there's this interesting thing on YouTube where they shot with a red camera, but they shot with I think it was a 35 millimeter lens from the 1900s.
Oh, no way.
1920s, maybe.
Cool.
Dude, it looks fantastic. Regardless,
the old silent film camera, silent film lenses. Oh man, yeah, you'll have to send me that.
Yeah, I'll send you that because it's some girl just dancing with fire. Like, just demonstrating like how any glass is good essentially.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter what year the glass is. Like all the glass will be the same. You know, like a 35 millimeter is gonna be the same. It might have difference of aperture, but the look of the photo it ultimately comes down to the camera, because Canon and Nikon have a very distinct visual difference. I think, and Sony's stepping up their game where you can kind of tell the difference if it's Sony, Canon, or Nikon just by looking at the photo.
Somebody's doing such a good job. We brought my buddy on, and he just has a little Sony point and shoot. I think it's like the P1000 or something. He just wanted to come along and get some pictures. I'm so jealous of how that thing does in low light. I'm running like a $6,000 rig, and this guy's like point and shoot does better on low light than, you know what I mean? It's crazy. Those Sonys are doing such a dang good job to the point where, like, if I ever jumped off the Nikon bandwagon, I'd probably be joining the Sony real quick, because those A7S's, like any line they're doing, are just doing fantastic, shots. But no, yeah, they're doing a good job. But yeah, I'll stick with Nikon for a while and just kind of have fun. But no, I'd love to see that video, because I love when like old stuff is met with new, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, man, that was really cool. How he pulled those old lenses out and just kind of threw them onto, or was it Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that he did that, or was it Hateful Eight? It might have been a Hateful Eight. I think he pulled out he like went and rented like lenses from a museum and used them. But yeah, that I love that stuff, dude. I'm so geeky about that stuff when it comes to the performance of the actors is great, but dude, I'm loving those filmmakers that appreciate it, the old style.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't go away. I don't think it will. There's true enthusiasts in the realm where a lot of people consider them hipsters, but like they still bring so much to the industry where it's just like, let them be hipsters. Like,
dude, hipsters. It's like, that's been such an interesting word thrown around, because it's like, yeah, a majority of my favorite films were from the silent era. I love the old silent westerns, and if I'm a hipster for appreciating the old ways, then dude, I'll wear that. I'll wear that t-shirt, dude. I'll wear that cap. I'll be a hipster if that's what you want to call me, dude. I'd rather appreciate the old ways of how these things were done and how it worked for we're coming up on some of my favorite silent films, dude, are coming up on their 100 years old. I'm watching a film. I just watched a film called Wagon Tracks. I think it was 1919. So it's now 101 years old, and it's like, dude, we're reaching a point where cinema is now over a century old, and it's like, that is so cool to me, dude. We're living in really interesting times to be able to watch, and to be able to still watch them is what blows my mind. I can pop that 1919 film into my Blu-ray. I've got a Blu-ray 4K print of it, and to watch that, it's like, this is weird. It's like a time machine, That's the closest thing we'll get to a time machine for a while, I think.
Yeah, well, it's constantly evolving as well, with technology. But I mean, even with like the structure of movies, how we're going away from like the 3-act structure and going into like a 5-act structure, and it's just constantly evolving, and I love it. It's all part of film history too, and it's probably like one of the most boring classes I took in school, because it was just, I don't know, it wasn't interesting to me, but like realizing that we're living that still adds so much excitement to it,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there was kind of the advent of sound, and then there was the Technicolor push, and then there was the digital push, and then it just kind of it just keeps getting going further and further, and you just wonder what the next one's. Do you think VR is the next where we go? Do you think that's how it goes? What's the next like sound? There's sound, there's the invention of color film, then there's digital film. What's next? Like, where does cinema go? Do we go to like the whole virtual reality thing, or do we go to choose your own adventure? Like, where do we go from here? Like,
4D, man.
Dude, yeah. Are we like immersed in our cinema?
Like you walk into the theater, and all movies will be shot in like 360 cameras where you can look around, even though that's not what they were paying attention. If that's gonna be the case though, to pull that off, because being on set, there's so many people behind the camera.
Oh, dude,
how are you gonna hide all that? You know?
Yeah. What's your? It reminds you. It kind of makes you think of like those Universal Studios attractions or our theme parks. Our theme parks, the closest thing we have to virtual cinema. In that you go through a Disneyland ride and you can turn around 360, even though you're moving in a general direction. You're on rails. You can still turn and see this story of So in a way, we've started to achieve that. And then like your King Kong experience at Universal, where that 360 3D, where this King Kong comes down and crashes you, and they spray you with water when he spits, or is that have we already achieved that? So it's really interesting. But you would have asked the same thing to those people right before the digital age of where does cinema go next? Nobody would have anticipated the digital era. That the fact that we don't have to do film anymore. We can just we have a memory card and that we can do this same take 350 times, and so we're kind of on that next cusp, I feel, of like evolution of film, like what's even around the corner, because nobody has any idea. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah, dude. Like, what's beyond digital?
Beyond digital. How do we go past this?
Boom.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I love that stuff. I love thinking about that stuff.
So with silent films, then do you have like a favorite genre of silent films?
Oh man, it's hard because that was the purest era of genre. You never, I guess I shouldn't say you never genre mixed, but your Westerns were your Westerns, your horrors were your horrors, your romances were your romances, and that was it. And we had very few genres to where I would say that the most that I watch are silent Westerns. The second most that I watch are silent horror, like your Lon Chaney's and your Hunchbacks and your Phantoms and and then I would go to like, no, I don't know, because there's comedy in there. Like Chaplin's like one of my biggest guys, so I don't know that I have. I guess I group silent cinema into one genre. I guess I should go back on my word in saying that there was only these genres. But yeah, I don't know that I could pick, because Chaplin is such a huge influence on Chaplin and Keaton are my forefathers, man. And Lon Chaney's there. But then John Ford is doing his first big Westerns in in Three Bad Men is probably my favorite silent film of all time, Three Bad Men. So that's a Western. So if that answers your question, my favorite one is a Western, but then I love them all. So,
well, so on Westerns, I think it was Steven Spielberg who said that superhero films will kind of phase out, but they're going to be like the new Western where they'll come back eventually, because Westerns are always making a comeback. But now we have like neo Westerns.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I sat and debated a guy in film school. I was 100% convinced that No Country for Old Men wasn't a Western, because I was like, no, I'm so old school. This is not a Western. It's a crime drama thriller. Don't do this to Westerns. And then like 4 years, he's like, just go home and watch it again with the intent that it is a Western, right? Because you never went into it. And he's like, go. I don't even know who I was debating. I'm trying to figure out who I was talking to. It wasn't Deuce. Maybe it was Deuce. I don't know. Anyway, I go home and watch it, and I'm like, son of a bitch! Like this is a Western. Like this is a modern Western. Like this is how it evolves. I want Westerns to always stay Magnificent Seven, shoot 'em up, and that's why I was so mad at Hateful Eight. I'll admit right here and now that Hateful Eight is my least favorite Tarantino film. I'm furious at it because I went to it and I thought, okay, he's shooting on 72 millimeter, right? Like here's your 72 millimeter. Okay. Here's your wideness of your screen. He's shooting on these old school techniques to where you want to get those big, wide open Western shots. And who did I talk to about this? I think it was Channing at Slick. I can't remember. Anyway, throw at 72 millimeter. You want these wide shots of the Tetons. You want these wide shots of all these horse, cattle draws and everything. And he shoots the whole thing in a cabin. like in a room like this size. And I'm like, dude, I want those big wide shots. And you just snowed them all in and you made a drama out of it. And I'm like, oh, I was so mad. But then I kind of went back and I thought, okay, let me go at this at a different genre. Like, stop putting my Western, because dude, I wanted Hateful Eight to be that, like, Kurt Russell's the one guy that comes in and just kicks everybody's ass. But everybody had a flaw and everybody was horrible. Like, there was no good people in that show. So it's like, who's my good guy? Who am I following? Who's the badass cowboy that I want to succeed? And I'm like, I hate all these people. Like, so it was such a shake up for the Western genre. And my poor little mind is so stuck in the John Ford era of Westerns where you have to have I'm so old. I'm so stuck in my ways of, like, my grandpa raised me on John Wayne movies. I know he's kind of a controversial figure nowadays, but I'll still watch John Wayne till the day I die. And there's got to be this one gunslinger that comes back, like you just said with the superhero movies, that comes back into town, new sheriff in town, but he's that old badass. Tombstone is probably one of my top 3 favorite Westerns of all time. So it's like, it's just so stereotypical that these so whenever one comes along that is kind of genre breaking, like No Country for Old Men or Hateful Eight, I'm bitter at first, and I'm like, no, don't take away my genre. But then I'm like, okay, like, yeah, that was pretty cool. Like that worked. So,
did you watch Hell or High Water?
No.
I think it's on Netflix right now. Okay. 10 out of 10 would recommend, because it's one of those neo-Western stuff. Okay. But
cool.
Jeff Bridges is in it. Chris Pine.
Dude. The dude and Captain Kirk are in a Western together?
Yeah. And they have like one of the best dialogue exchanges near the end, where it's like, and the guy who wrote Taylor Sheridan, who also wrote Sicario and Wind River. But
dude.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in. Yeah, I'm in. I hear Sicario. That's all I got to hear, dude. That was intense.
I love Sicario, dude.
Yeah, dude. It was a good flick. But yeah, man. So yeah, I'm just kind of stuck in the old ways as far as like Westerns go. I love, and that inspires my photography. I pull that. I love just walking out into a snowstorm and getting some cool shots of a big, beautiful animal that's out there just living its day. And I love melding the two worlds of photography and cinema, man. I think they belong together.
When's the last rendezvous that you went to?
I went to Fort Bridger last year. And then I went to the one in West Yellowstone is called the Smoking Waters Mountain Man Rendezvous. Smoking Waters being like the geyser water that comes out of Yellowstone. And I can't remember which one was more recent. I want to say that Fort Bridger was more recent. Have you ever been to the Fort Bridger Mountain Man Rendezvous?
I think that's the only one I've been to. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's the Comic-Con of Mountain Man Rendezvous. That's the big one, out there in Fort Bridger. And I love going to those. And I need to do more photography at them. I get so geeked out when I'm walking around buying goods and I forget to take pictures. And so I was going to go this year, but the Big C kind of canceled that out. And but no, we'll be back stronger than ever next year and go get some good shots of. Yeah, we should hit up one together. I didn't know you had gone to one.
Yeah, my stepdad has gone to plenty. He actually does beadwork.
Oh, cool! Rock on.
Yeah, so he's all about the mountain man life, and
cool.
I took him to go see The Revenant when that came out, and he's just like engulfed in it,
Dude. Yeah. What blows my mind is that I found out that like in the mountain man community, you either loved or you hated The Revenant. And I'm like, whoa, like there's people there. Yeah, there's a big following of mountain men that despise The Revenant.
Why?
And I'll give you the one reason I found is that the original Revenant book deviated quite a bit from the truth of what happened to this guy. And so the film really covered that. They followed the book really well in that it told some kind of, it kind of exaggerated a little bit. So dude, mountain men, the ones that are like full blown reenactors, they hate that movie because it's like, no, like Jim Bridger was a strong, and like they played Jim Bridger off in that movie as like a punk teenager that didn't know right from wrong. And it's like, no, Bridger had it figured out by then. Like Bridger had a whole lifestyle figured out by then. So yeah, that kind of blew my mind because I love Revenant. So I drop it every once in a while at a rendezvous. I'm like, see the Revenant, and it's just kind of flinch after you ask it. But
well, I know not a lot's known about Hugh Glass. So there's like a lot of liberties that they had to be kind of put in place. But either way, man, like, can you imagine just living like that during that time period? That would be so fucking brutal, especially in that snow.
Yeah. Me and my boss, we actually just listened to like Mountain Man journals, audiobooks all day while we're working.
Oh, nice.
And, he's a big Mountain Man rendezvous guy. And I turned to him one day and I was like, dude, like you and me get hungry. We go to like In-N-Out and get a burger and then we're back in an hour. We take our lunch break, right? Food to these guys was at least a day long adventure. Like usually 2 to 3 days to go and guarantee their food source for the coming days was an entire, sometimes week, venture to go out and get these animals. And in the time me and my boss go and get food, I also need to stop and get a shirt at Kohl's. I also need to stop and get shoes at Famous Footwear. And I also need to stop and get ammunition at Cabela's. That can be done in like a 3-hour span. And those things were all like week-long ventures for these mountain men. And so it would have been a slower lifestyle. If I always say that I would love to go back and see that lifestyle, but now that I'm trained, now that I have my cell phone all the time, and now that I have my car that I can get in and I can go drive somewhere, you'd go nuts. Our modern minds would crumble.
For sure. Like it fascinates me. And like a time period that really fascinates me is the 1800s with like Deadwood.
Yeah.
Like the turn of the century, essentially, of the 1800s going to the 1900s, like that whole time period. It's so fascinating to me. I love it.
It's cool. And it kind of, that's kind of why I turned to nature photography, is that you get out there and it's a way for you to get a little bit of a taste of it. The way for you to go, I got my camera, I got this, I got myself, I got my ham radio if I need to get, contact of emergency, but you're still out there and you're still out in the middle of nowhere getting, trying to find these beasts. So in a way, I think that's why I've fallen in love with the mountain man lifestyle, is I'm able to apply that in modern life. I've been a wildlife photographer, a nature photographer, because you're trying to get out there and get your shots the most beautiful way you can. And if you don't get out there and get set, like I've had wasted days, man. I've gone up Big Cottonwood to get mountain goats. I still don't have one. My failure rate is as 100% as of today. My failure rate is 100%, but I know that one day there's going to be a 99.5 failure rate. And then if I can pull that back a little bit, that's, you get out there and you find this extreme appreciation for Mother Nature. And, I like to say that, Mother Nature is my church on Sundays, that, I'll probably try to get out later today somehow and get out there, maybe go see if I can find some goats, especially with, I guess I'm looking out, you can see the sunlight's coming in. There's a new snow blanket on our valley today. I'm sure it's the same at your place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I woke up cold and I'm like, why is it all of a sudden cold? I look out my window and I'm like, wow. Okay.
Ready or not, here it comes.
That's Utah, dude. It's like, oh, you want fall? Here's 1 week of fall. Boom,
yep.
Winter.
Boom. Yep. It's the slight week before the slight week of paradise for 6 months of torture.
Oh, I love it though. But
yeah, me too.
All right. Well, where can people find you, man?
Dude, people can find me at www.orrcam, so orcam.com. And then I'm also on Instagram at Layne Fin, LAYNE_FIN. You're going to find all my The website is more for anybody who wants to seek me out for portraits.
Which you're good at, by the way. I'll plug that in right there.
Thank you. So right back at you, man. I love seeing your stuff. And then, so yeah, that's more for if you want to, but my portfolio is up on there with my video work and my photography work. And then, my still work is all on display for the world to see on Instagram. That's kind of where I spend my time. And then, yeah, hit me up on Facebook if you want to get, involved in my calls for human decency, I guess. Facebook is like my written word, like way to get my soul out there. Instagram is my visuals, and then my website. Yeah, come help me make my money for my food. For my
well, dude, I've never seen you post negative stuff on Facebook. It's always been optimistic, and the glass is half full kind of an outlook, and I appreciate that because I definitely falter.
Hey, dude, don't be ashamed of yourself for faltering. I think we're living in such a toxic time.
Yeah.
But the squeaky wheel is unfortunately getting the grease, and I promise you with all my heart that there's a positive blowback to this. My friend really put it well in that, almost like a Native American look at it, is that there's this really good beast and there's this really bad beast, and everybody seems to be feeding the bad beast right now. He's super strong. But the good beast is being fed under the table. And those under the table scraps are feeding a good force in this world, man. I promise you there's just as much good in these interactions, and it just takes reaching out, man. I love seeing people come together and talk through differences than, pulling out verbal knives and just jabbing each other, man. Because I guarantee you and me have political differences. I guarantee you and some close family members have different political differences. And man, you asked the question earlier, what my favorite animal is, right? Bison I have a special place for, but then I look at every single animal in the animal kingdom like I look at humans, in that this person is this species, but this person is a part of a sacred chain, and you're a part of a sacred chain. And Facebook kind of pulls out makes the sacred chain seem like we're just liking each other's posts, but that sacred chain will stand up for each other when push comes to shove. I guarantee it, man. There's a better force at work here, and we just don't see it.
No, and I believe that. That's something that it's just like you intuitively know. Like there is something at work here. We just can't.
You feel it, dude. You feel that, yeah. And that's a sacred gift you've been given, man. That's, if you go to those Mountain Man rendezvous, they talk about that. They talk about being spiritually connected to the land. You're not going to find me in church on Sundays. You're going to find me sitting on a rock, just taking in the trees and I love like the Lord of the Rings blows my mind. Tolkien's universe is the closest I get to religious text, right? Is the Lord of the Rings, because you talk about the Ents and the Orcs and everybody that has a place in this world is going to have to decide not what side they're on, but what side who they'll fight for, right? That's where the Ents come in, or that's where the Hobbits come in, where the Hobbits were living this wonderful life pre-Facebook of happiness and food and drink and merriment. But when push comes to shove, we all got to kind of work together to kind of get through tougher times, and we will. We absolutely will. I can't remain on pessimistic views, man. We gotta
move past that.
Dude, yeah, we gotta have a happier outlook on this, man. We've got to.
I believe we will, and I'm excited to see how we come swinging back from this. It's like an elastic band just waiting to be released, like full force.
Yeah. The pendulum blowback is going to be huge here, and I loved what you and Deuce talked about on Deuce's episode, as far as what's artistically going to come from this. Like artistically, I believe we're on the verge of a new renaissance. I really do. Whether it's Sacha Baron Cohen dressing up and Rudy Giuliani, or if it's like a new, Mona Lisa's painted. I don't know what the spectrum of art will be here, but I think that we're on the verge of something great here. I just hope that humanity doesn't, I personally, dude, I despise change, man. I despise change. If anything ever got disrupted in my life, in my household, and my relationship life, in my schooling, in my career choices. It was devastating, dude. It was like sick. You felt that feeling, that sick feeling in your stomach of like, what's next, dude? So I just feel like we're in that sick feeling in our stomach. You know, I feel like we're in that phase of like, oh, okay, we're good. Like the roller coaster drop, you know, like let's just get this over with to start having fun again. But we'll get there, man. We'll get there.
I believe it, and I appreciate your fantastic outlook.
Oh heck yeah, dude! Anytime you need a little bit of a cheer up or a letdown, dude. Like I love being people. Yeah, I love being. You know, when I how you and me got introduced was these film sets and Deuce and John and Keegan and all these really cool people that we've worked with. They can attest. They probably look at you and go like. They look at me and they go like, what does Layne do? Like Layne's done a bunch of different things, right? Layne's this jackass of all trades. But the reason I was there is because I love the interactions between people. Like
Absolutely.
I love dude. I was in it for just the people, man. I wasn't like the movies are one thing. Like that's cool. And like the performances, like I love that. And I love getting a presentable product done. But it was all about the interactions. You'll attest to this. When I'm on set, dude, it's like, are you doing okay? Like, are you like, I'd make a dang good AD if I wanted to do it, but I would never want to do that. I would never wish that on anybody. It's like, you know what I mean? Like,
bless their hearts.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I'm a bleeding heart when it comes to like on set. And that's been kind of my downfall too, in that it's not necessarily a world for bleeding hearts. Cause you gotta be thick skinned.
Yeah.
And, you know, I took criticisms early on from people, from professors like Mark Davis, and I never took them too hard. I just wanted everybody that I was on set to know it's been an absolute pleasure to just hang out with everybody and see that breathing organism work with everybody. And whether or not I find a career in filmmaking again, I was freelancing for a very long time doing promotional stuff. Whether or not I end up being that cowboy that comes, come walking back down the dusty old street, Layne's back into filmmaking. Whether or not that happens, it's been an amazing time just seeing people like you and people like Deuce work. And I really appreciate what you've done with this podcast, because you're doing what I think is missing in the Utah film scene, is that it's every man for himself in the Utah, in any film scene in LA and here. And you are doing the absolute opposite of that. You're reaching out and you're picking people out of a crowd, of a very, very vast crowd, and you're putting the spotlight on them for a minute. And so I've got to commend you right off the bat, an hour into this podcast. I got to commend you because, dude, you're doing something that nobody else is. You're making sure that other people are seen. And the film scene is hell-bent on myself being seen. I want to be seen. I want my work to be seen. You're making sure that out there that like people know who the people are. You're putting a face on these individuals. And that's a sacred thing, man. You're doing a great job. My question is to you. Can I ask you one question on this podcast?
Of course.
Hey, okay. You ready? You can't say me because I'm interviewing you, right?
Yep.
Episode 50 of this show needs to be somebody interviewing you. Somebody needs to put the spotlight on you, man. So
episode
who are you
50.
Gonna pick? Who are you going to pick? Does Deuce come back to interview you? Who comes back to interview you to make sure that the spotlight shows on you too, man? Because it needs to happen. Doesn't have to be episode 50. Not making decisions for your show here, but you gotta. Yeah, it needs to be commended, man. Yeah, you're doing a great job.
Well, thank you, man. That's actually an interesting idea. I've never thought about that. So that'd be interesting.
Heck yeah, dude.
That'd be really, really interesting. I thought about doing just a solo, like one episode, just a solo cast of me just talking.
Yeah.
It's awkward. Number one, it's very awkward just talking to a mic and rambling. I don't know how Bill Burr does it. Like, it's talent.
I don't know how he does anything, man. Yeah, totally.
But no, I appreciate it. And I appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you.
It's been a genuine pleasure, man.
You're a delight to talk to, and I miss being on set with you. And hopefully after this big freaking pandemic is over, we go back in full force.
It's painful. I think that is going to be the hardest thing out of this is is going back to, I don't think we're going back to any sort of normal, quote unquote normal, but I think that those interactions will be even more appreciated when the time comes, dude, and we go on another John set or we go on another Deuce set together. It's going to be that much sweeter, man.
Yeah. Well, I remember on Deuce's sets, like, people are huggers, man. Like, we just hug each other goodbye, and I miss that so freaking much. I'm tired of doing winging it, like, good job, man. But I can hug people. I will be the happiest guy.
Heck yeah, dude. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm big and awkward. If you ask for like handshakes, I do that kind of like I somehow land weird, somehow like land on a weird hand, or like if I do the elbow bump, I'll take out a freaking vase or something. I'm the clumsiest person I know, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. So I'm looking forward to getting back to hugging again, man. It's just, it's the only thing I know.
Yeah, man. But all right, well, look at Layne's stuff on his website, on his Instagram.
Yeah,
follow podcasts on social medias, and myself included, and everything will be in the show notes. So,
Layne, on.
Thank you for coming on, dude, and I hope you have a great Sunday.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. Let's go out to a Mountain Man rendezvous sometime.
Hell yeah, dude. What's planned for I would say next year, but I'll probably say in 2 years.
Yeah, let's just be safe. Let's give us that padding.
just a little bit, but all right, dude. I will talk to you later.
Cheers, my friend.